Thank you for joining us. My name is Dominique Brooks. I'm the Ombudsman for the Atlantic and Cape May County Superior Court. Meet the Court Live is a summer weekly series of webinars via Zoom to inform the public about a variety of court programs, services, and more. The presentation today will provide general information and feature a Q&A at the end. You may submit general, non-case specific questions at any point via the Q&A function in your Zoom application, and our speakers will address them at the end as long as time permits. This is a Zoom webinar, so your cameras and microphone will not be usable. Also, please note that this series is a product of the Atlantic and Cape May County vicinage of the Superior Court of New Jersey, and some information may be unique to this vicinage. Be sure to check with your own county vicinage for any information specific to them. Today's presentation will cover the enhanced outcome-based supervision model of our probation department and will be presented by subject matter experts, our two quality assurance specialists, Joanne Thompson and Tavana Hooks. We hope you enjoy today's session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tavana Hooks, and as Dominique said, I am a part of the probation department, and my title now is Administrative Specialist. I'm here to present to you today New Jersey's Probation Enhanced Outcome-Based Supervision Program. The Office of Probation Services is dedicated to supporting the community by ensuring public safety through adherence of fair and equitable evidence-based practices that promote positive behavioral change and long-term dissonance. The term dissonance is defined as the de-escalation in the severity or frequency of antisocial behaviors. These changes involved a shift in probation's philosophy from one of punishment and monitoring to promoting real long-term behavioral change. So, evidence-based practices, probation's current model. Evidence-based practice is a process for making decisions that are grounded in the best available research. Decades of research have demonstrated that when these principles are adhered to, recidivism is reduced and the likelihood for positive behavioral change can occur in our clients. Supervision now takes into account the criminogenic need factors of our clients. That would include a history of antisocial behavior, their personality, their peers, social values and attitudes, substance abuse, family relations, education/employment, and leisure. And to break that down, we focus on attitudes, peers, personality, leisure, education/employment, substance use, and family. We are focused, goal-oriented, and strength-based supervision now. That makes it a collaborative effort between the client and the officer, focusing on goals and needs to develop a plan for success that we will use throughout their term. We utilize our validated risk tool to assess each client, and that would be the ORAS and the OYAS tool that applies to everyone that is placed on probation supervision. And finally, we use cognitive behavioral techniques throughout our term and interactions with our clients, all in efforts to achieve dissonance. And as I explained before, that's long-term behavioral change, as stated earlier. So, how do we put the research into practice? We use a risk-need responsivity model. Okay, the risk principle tells us who we target. Okay, it is determined by our validated tool. And as I said that before, it was the ORAS and the OYAS that we use. Who should be in programs and who would benefit the most. Risk refers to the likelihood of reoffending. We categorize our clients into low, moderate, or high risk for reoffending. Once identified, we match them with interventions and supervision levels that are appropriate for their level of risk. There's also the need principle, and the need principle tells us what we target, as in specific areas of need for the individual client. Those criminogenic needs that I named earlier, the attitudes, the peers, the personality, the leisure, the education/work, the substance use and family, and we'll discuss that a little more later. Interventions are most effective if they're focused on the specific need areas to that individual, okay? And we address these areas, addressing these areas, has been shown to reduce recidivism, which again is our long-term goal. And our last principle is the responsivity principle, okay? And that tells us the how to change the behaviors and how we target those behaviors, okay? The criminogenic needs of high-risk clients, and there are two parts to the responsivity principle that is general and specific. For general responsivity, we provide interventions that will respond well to that the client will respond well to, I apologize, like cognitive behavioral strategies, which Joanne will discuss later. Specific responsivity means we match the person's characteristics and learning styles, okay? And we also identify and remove any barriers that they may have as that can hinder their response to our efforts of, again, reducing recidivism. As I discussed before, probation addresses the criminogenic needs of the client. There are 8 risk factors that we look out for, and we focus on, they call them the big 4. Number 1 is a history of antisocial behavior, and although we cannot change people's history, it is something that we do look out for when it comes to probation supervision. And what we try to do is build a pro-social alternative to those behaviors that they used before when they were in risky situations. In addition to that, one of the main things we look toward is the attitudes, values, and beliefs. I'll give you an example. When people think they're better than others, it's not a big deal. It's not wrong if I don't get caught. I deserve to be given what I want, or a negative view of authority. Basically, how we try to combat that is to focus on reducing that criminal thinking. We teach the client to recognize and manage risky thoughts and feelings and adopt a reform and pro-social identity. The other thing we look out for is peer association. It's shown that a risky behavior is spending time with antisocial peers and lacking pro-social friends, and acquaintances. So what we try to rebuild that as is reduce association with criminals, enhance association with pro-social people that can be in their life. The other thing probation attempts to focus on are personality factors. Okay, a personality factor would be something like impulsivity, self-centeredness, risk-taking behaviors, aggressive or hostile behaviors, low empathy, weak socialization, and problem-solving skills, along with poor self-control. And what we try to do is help them build problem-solving skills and teach them anger management and coping skills throughout our dealings with our clients and throughout our contacts with our clients. Next slide, please. The bottom things that we focused on, that we used to focus on a lot more before, however, they do still make a difference. There is the family factor, okay, including criminal behavior within the immediate family, low levels of affection within said family, or poor parental supervision. How we look to redirect that is reduce conflict, build positive relationship and communication skills, in addition to anger management. When it comes to school and work, if there are low levels of personal, education, vocational, and financial achievement, that is a risk for the clientele that we deal with. So we look to enhance performance, provide rewards and satisfaction, and again, our dealings with our clientele. When it comes to school and social work, basically low levels of, I apologize, I'm on leisure and recreation now. Low levels of involvement in pro-social and pro-leisure activities and engaging in anti-social activities, as in too much unstructured free time, can leave our clientele at risk. So what we try to do is enhance involvement and satisfaction in pro-social leisure activities. And finally, substance abuse. It doesn't make it any less, but one of the other things that we do focus on is been shown that abuse of alcohol and or other drugs, this often allows for contact with antisocial peers, and it can impact the social skills. And in the case of illicit drug use, which is illegal within itself, when they use illegal means to obtain alcohol or other drugs, that can lead to risky behavior. So we look to, reduce substance abuse and reduce personal and interpersonal supports of substance abuse behavior and enhance alternatives to substance abuse. These are all of the things and all the areas we target with our clientele on supervision. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Joanne Thompson.
Thank you, Tavana. I'm muted. Okay, thank you, Tavana. I'm Joanne Thompson. I am the other quality assurance specialist in Vista Niche 1, Atlantic and Cape May County. I'm going to go over with you core correctional practices. So far, we have identified who we need to target. We have identified what needs we need to work on. So now we're going to talk about how we're going to work with the person to overcome the barriers. We have now trained every probation officer in the state on core correctional practices and cognitive behavioral interventions that can be used with their clients. These are the CCP strategies that POs can use to help change behavior. I'm going to list these strategies and then dive a little deeper into each one. We have quality interpersonal relationships, effective reinforcement, effective disapproval, effective use of authority, cognitive restructuring, anti-criminal modeling, structured learning and skill building, problem-solving techniques. So quality interpersonal relationships, we want to build quality relationships with our clients because that matters. It creates a more receptive audience. Our goal is to have a professional relationship that is firm, fair, and consistent. The client should feel respected, and listened to. Probation officers should be dependable, invested, and open. This will lead to a rapport with our clients that will provide an increased level of cooperation and safety and an environment for learning new skills. Effective reinforcement. Our goal is to increase desired behaviors. This helps create a safe environment and leads to reductions in reoffending. To do this, we need to use reinforcements. So how do we do that? By adding something they like or by taking away something they do not like. We also use effective disapproval. Part of being a change agent is to monitor for and reduce the occurrence of problematic behavior. Ignoring misconduct increases the likelihood of it reoccurring. Once misconduct or risky behavior is known, our goal is to decrease the frequency of that targeted behavior. One of the ways we do this is with sanctions. There are two types of sanctions that we use. We can either add something they don't like or take away something they do like. Effective use of authority, being firm but fair. The goal is to help the person think about future consequences that may result from their current behavior and assist them to behave in a way that is better for the future. We use our authority to guide toward positive choices, and if they don't follow that option, we use our authority to apply negative consequences. Cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring is using specific skills for interventions. It helps us know how to intervene in ways that will maintain safety and decrease recidivism. Examples of interventions we use are the cost-benefit analysis, behavior chain, and cognitive restructuring. The cost-benefit analysis is a tool that we can use to increase motivation by looking at short and long-term positive and negative consequences from behaviors. It can provide the client with key information on understanding what motivates that person. And it can identify barriers that can be targeted to increase the likelihood of change. The behavior chain, sorry, is a way to shift the focus from external situations to internal risky thinking. The behavior change shows it's not the situation that leads to the behavior, it's their interpretation of that situation. The behavior chain teaches the process from situation to thinking to feeling to action and resulting positive and negative consequences. Cognitive restructuring is a tool that builds off the behavior chain. It looks at not only risky thinking, but also positive pro-social thinking. Therefore, the next part of the behavior chain is to consider how to use it to start to restructure risky thinking so that it leads to a less risky behavior. Anti-criminal modeling. Probation officers serve as role models by exhibiting pro-social behaviors and positively reinforcing the clients when they exhibit these pro-social behaviors. Structured learning and skill building. Structured learning is a method to teach new skills in an organized, stepwise process. Skill building is a technique we use to teach a new skill. We break it down into steps because that's how people learn. And problem-solving techniques. Teaching clients to identify a problem, clarify goals, evaluate options, generate alternatives, implement the plan, and evaluate the solution. Our goal is for them to solve their own problems without us. We want them to become independent problem solvers. We can go to the next slide. So we do this with case plans for success. These are client-centered case plans that'll help guide rehabilitation. Case planning will be the result of the risk need, the RNR, risk need responsivity instrument, the client's personal goals, the barriers to working with the client, and the client's circle of influence. The case plan will result from the areas identified in the risk tool as being areas of criminogenic need and also what the person wants to work on. If there are barriers, the PO will work to address them as well. For example, if a person has no transportation to the office, the probation officer may be able to go to the client's home to see them or provide them with a bus pass if one is available. The probation officer will utilize the plan for success as an interactive tool, which is revised as the client's needs change. The client's input as to what he or she would like to accomplish during the supervision term should be incorporated into the plan for success. The goal is to help them make real behavioral change that will last beyond the probation term and ultimately lead to safer communities. Okay, we can, additional tools to encourage successful completion. Structured responses. These are suggested responses to both positive and negative behaviors that will be provided that are individualized for the probation client and will include core correctional practice techniques. And we need to use the correct ratio because according to research, long-lasting behavioral change happens when a ratio of 4 incentives to 1 sanction is employed. Probation has developed a structured response, sanctions, and incentives grid that will be used statewide. Again, if the goal is real, long-lasting behavioral change, then at least 4 incentives to 1 sanction is needed according to the research. Think about how you influence your child's behavior. Do you just punish them or do you offer them incentives as well? This is a similar concept. To sum up, probation's enhanced outcome-based focus initiative is using a risk instrument to assess criminogenic need factors, tailoring our supervision to focus on these factors, spending more time with high-risk cases, and using less intrusive ways of reporting for low-risk cases so as not to pull them further into the system, and then defining our success as desistance from crime, which is measured while measuring our performance. The goal is to promote real, long-lasting behavioral change that extends beyond the term of probation and leads to more community safety. Questions?
Okay, so if anyone has any questions regarding the enhanced outcome-based supervision model, you can ask those questions via the Q&A function that you should see in your Zoom application. We'll give it a minute or so for any questions to come in before moving on. Not seeing anything as of yet. So I'll move on. If you still have a question, feel free to continue typing. For now, I'll move into the next slide and I'll keep an eye on those questions. So we just want to thank you for watching today's presentation, and thank you to our subject matter experts and our Spanish interpreter. We would love to receive feedback on this program. Using the QR code on the screen, please take a moment to answer a brief survey about today's program. You will also receive the link via email after this session ends, as well as a flyer for remaining webinar topics. If you're looking for more information